we are in. Is this working? I feel like a secret agent sitting here with this on my well right here. But I had like John Cleese as well, telling all those jokes, and then I've got to come in and top that. Wow. Hello and welcome. I'm Tyler West from Kiss FM. Absolute pleasure to be here hosting today's panel on the power of audio in advertising, basically the bad boy jingles that you can't get out of your head. Now, to explore the role of audio in advertising, I've got some incredible guests. Whether your ad uses a piece of music, a sonic logo, or a consistent voiceover, audio can play an important role in any ad campaign. Now, the team joining me today know a thing or two about that, and each will provide a different viewpoint as we go through. We've got Lola Young, we've got Jenna Fentimen, and also incredible music artist Lola Young, aka the voice of the new John Lewis 2021 Christmas campaign, which, by the way, you had me chopping onions. I was in my feels. Them vocals right there are only safe for the shower. Neighbours are definitely going to complain, isn't it? Before we get into it as well, if you do have any questions, we will come to you at the end. You can get those involved on the Slido app, so don't be shy. So in terms of the power of audio in advertising, what better place than to start with you, Lola? Right, it's been a bit of a mad week.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
Bit of a mad week. What's the reaction been like since the single and John Lewis, like the John Lewis ad dropped on Thursday?
It's been pretty mad. I mean, like, Jesus, really mic'd. Yeah, it's been really incredible. I mean, obviously for me it was a bit of a crazy ride, obviously with COVID and things not going as planned, of course, for every like up and coming artist. And to get that, it was just like the cherry on top of what has been quite a busy year for me. Kind of getting everything back on track. But yeah, it's just mad, absolutely mad.
How did it all come about? Did the team come to you with like that song in mind, or was it just simply their advert idea?
Yeah, so they came to me with the song in mind, Electric Dreams, like Together in Electric Dreams, which is an absolute banger. And obviously I was like, I've got to do this one. But obviously I really, really wanted it. It was something that I was like not stopping. I had to get it. It was like, I remember my manager called me up and it was like 12 o'clock at night or some crazy time. I was trying to sleep because I had work the next day from him, of course. And he calls me up like in his towel and he's like, no, we got it. I'm like, oh my God. Literally, I was so happy, yeah.
Oh, wicked. Now, Al, from a creator's perspective, how important is audio in advertising to you?
I think generally sonic is very underestimated. Nothing quite gets into the memory system like sonic. You know, when we're little kids, we go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or 3 times 6, 6 times 6 is 36. We learn the basics through sound, through sonics, and nothing goes in like them. You know, it's why we can't. I probably couldn't remember a conversation I had this morning with somebody, even if it was important, but I could sing every single word of a theme tune from a kids program from the 1980s, because nothing goes in like that. It's almost as if it's somewhat underused, if anything.
Do you want to give us a rendition of that right now?
Here he is, the Pink Panther, the Rinky Dink Panther.
Lola,
off you go. It's easy. You know?
Come on now. And do you think enough brands and agencies recognise its role?
I think they do, but I think they can be a bit sniffy about it, actually. Everyone thinks, it must be like bang, ding, ding, for Intel Inside, or it must be some fat bloke singing Go Compare all the time. But there's much more to it. If you think about that, even the Walls Magnum advertising, there's a huge, amazing crunch when they bite into the ice cream. And you hear it in your own head when you do it, it creates desire. So sonic isn't just about musical devices. There's a lot more to it, and it could be a lot more thoroughly explored, I think.
Yeah. Jenna, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, music is a funny one in that no one ever really knows at what point in the production it should happen. It should be probably talked about at the very beginning, but then the edit starts getting underway, and finding the right moment to start talking about it is really, really important. And I think, having a little bit more time with it would be amazing to all ad agencies out there.
Slight dig.
But no, it is. I think it is. I mean, it's 50% of the advert, I think. But I would say that I'm biased.
More sometimes.
Thank you.
And when brands come to you at McDade, like looking to soundtrack their campaign, how do you go about working with them to find something that will enhance their creative?
So the first thing is finding out what it is that they're trying to communicate, and not just the message of the advert itself, but what are you trying to make the audience feel What are you trying to instill in them? You know, if, like Al was saying, if it's trying to do something nostalgic, then would you need something vintage? Are you trying to tug at the heartstrings? You know, are you trying to create a kind of lush production that really supports a vocal? So really kind of getting to the depths of what it is that is needed on a sort of deeper level. And then, you know, quite often creatives will start trying to throw instruments at us, and I'm like, don't worry about that. You know, you don't have to say, I want a guitar and I want a drum.
Yeah.
You can say, I want it to be uplifting, and
Yeah,
give us
what's the
descriptors.
emotional charge?
Yeah,
exactly
so,
right.
you know, we're happier with descriptors than we are with, you know, the music stuff we can then translate to the composer.
And what about the red flags? Yeah, what about like when a brand gets it wrong in choosing music to go for their campaign?
It's a really hard one. I think the difficulty often is there's a few things. There's guide track love, where everyone gets an idea in their head about one track, and they try and make that work. Maybe they can't afford it, and then they go for something else. Because they're so hung up on this one idea, it can actually really have a detrimental effect on any further ideas from that point. Sometimes it's good to just start afresh. If you can't get that track, start from the beginning again, because you can end up going down a rabbit hole, and then you finish the thing and you look at it and you go, oh, maybe that wasn't the best idea. So it's kind of having that, like taking a step back every so often and working out what kind of the aim is, the initiative is, and, you know, really thinking, zooming in and zooming out. And I think sometimes people can get a little lost in the guide track love.
Yeah.
And then the other one as well is if you have an idea and then you push it too far with a composer on a bespoke project and get too close to the reference idea as well, then it just sounds like a cheap rip-off of the original.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful with that as well, both legally and also the audience can hear when it sounds like a little bit like something they know, but not quite.
Yeah.
So it's always better to be original, I think.
Originality. How you agree with that one?
Yeah, I would. But I see this problem that Jenna talks about, getting too close to it, too wrapped up in one idea, and most kind of creative people don't like market research, but it can be incredibly useful to get a choice of tracks in front of people. It can be the same commercial, the same campaign, but just try it, get it in front of the people you're trying to talk to. You know, we did Clark shoes for about 10 years because they were famous for kids' shoes. We would always play the tunes from Mum and Dad's childhood.
Right.
And suddenly it just took them. But we did that through finding. We tested 3 different ways at it, and that was one of them. Tracks from Mum and Dad's childhood, and that was the one they went for. But they wouldn't have probably gone for it, I think, without that testing. It just helps to get a bit of objectivity into it sometimes.
Do you reckon advertisers should look at taking a consistent approach when it comes to audio, or is it not that deep?
Well, I mean, visibility, audibility is about consistency, isn't it? But if you look at the brilliant piece of music that Lola's just created, I think it was 2009, wasn't it, when that Guns N' Roses, big tough macho metal band, Sweet Child of Mine was, but they got that, I can't remember the name of the singer for that one, but she gave it a similar treatment to Lola. It's not the same, obviously, but it was still taking something soft and haunting and feminine and applying it for something that was either kind of a bit kind of poppy or a bit rocky, but that's still branding. It's not the same tune, is it?
Yeah.
But there's a consistency there. There's a brand ownership over that style.
Yeah. How has audio fed into like the creative strategy for some of your big clients? Like you work with like Ocado and Terrell's. Like how's it fed into that?
Well, with Ocado, it's all about a more personal service, more personal choice. So the line for that is there's an Ocado just for you. That's quite a long line, but it does sound quite musical. And we knew right from the start that we've got to make a song out of it. And we wanted to make it friendlier, so we thought if we could make it like sort of Postman Pat meets the Transformers visually, with the van changing in a cute way. But if we can get like a Postman Pat type sweet little song going with it. So right from the start, so we were recording demos before we even appointed the director. Yeah. Because we knew that music was going to be that kind of important to it.
And what's been the impact on the brand's effectiveness since that Postman Pat remix right there?
Well, since the Postman Pat effect, their brand values are about 72%. We can't take credit for that. Yeah. But we can be confident that there's much more awareness, much higher awareness, a much better understanding of what Ocado is, rather than it being a delivery service for Waitrose. It is a big, humongous operation in its own right, and that effectively was our brief.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that awareness, Lola, people often talk about fame when it comes to like advertising brands and stuff. Now, you're in a pretty good place to put that to the test. Less than a week after the John Lewis ad has been released, have you got a Lola 10 discount code yet? is it coming? Like, come on.
Is that the genuine question? Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's my genuine question. The question it says here is, was it feel like being part of such a hotly anticipated campaign?
I mean, no, I don't have that discount thing there. Yeah, I mean, little hint, hint, but yeah, it's kind of been a bit weird because the growth as from an up and coming artist, it was mad for me to get it because the names of the legacy that the John Lewis advert obviously holds, and also the artists that have previously done it, like it's a big thing for an up and coming artist to get like myself, but. The most interesting thing about it is the talk around it straight after it comes out. So obviously it was released early in the morning and then bam, it's just like everyone's talking about it. There's loads of like, whatever, you know, what happens on the internet and like loads of press and stuff, which was really exciting for me because I'd never got that amount of coverage in such a short amount of time. Yeah. But it really just goes to show like the actual, what a song can kind of hold for an advert. Yeah. Obviously, like I wasn't involved in any of that side of things, but just like I went into with the producer, did the song, and you know what that can then bring, what that can lead to, the other avenues it can lead to is pretty mad. Yeah,
and then what sort of vibe was you going for? Like when you were singing that song, was you hoping that it would move people? Was you hoping like what was your feeling around it?
So I originally approached it, the sentiment of the song, and like the overall lyric is actually it's sad, but with like kind of a bit of hope buried in there. And I think I originally approached it very melancholy. I wanted to sing it in like a very sad way to kind of. And I think the assumption with music is that if you approach it in a certain way, so it's in melancholy way, it's going to move people more. But what I ended up doing was, like, I saw the ad and I kind of tried to envision myself, like, almost like, sounds really cringe, but like falling in love, and the kind of, the emotion that overtook was actually happier than it was sad. Right. So when I was singing it, it meant that, like, there was a joyous overtone, which I think is, I hope, what John Lewis liked about my version.
Yeah, you didn't just put a donk on it. Yeah, it just smashed it. Jenna, what's your top tips for finding the right sound for a campaign?
Start thinking about it early. If you're pulling references, think about maybe pulling 2 or 3 instead of just having one that you're honing in on. Because if you've got 2 or 3, then you can kind of say, well, I like something about this track, I like something about this track, I like something about this track. Maybe we can try and create a track or think of a track that has all 3, you know. So, you know, having a sort of gauge, a bit of a, this one works for this reason, why it doesn't for this reason. Yeah, let people know, you know, the music supervisor, whoever you're working with, know what isn't working as well as what is working. It's really, really useful. And just getting those sort of emotional pointers as well is a really, really good starting point.
I'd add to what Jenna said earlier as well. Tell them what you want the takeout to be, not what you want the input to be, and let the artists find that solution.
Yeah, and trust in the musician.
Trust in the artists.
They're very
Trust
good.
you, Lola.
Yeah. They know what they're doing.
Now, Al, you've actually written about how radio can help us escape our own echo chamber. What did you mean by that?
That was more a lockdown piece. It was about kind of, we can get very trapped inside like our own kind of limited narratives if we within social, and because there's a much broader range of voices coming from different places on radio. It's a very good place to go to kind of to stop yourself from disappearing up your own backside, I guess. Yeah. So that was what that piece was about. But I think more than that, I was speaking, I bumped into a friend of a friend, and this lady was a trauma therapist, and she was dealing with a lot of people, sometimes they'd lost their sight or they'd lost hearing. I said, oh, well, of course, it must be, losing the sight must be so much worse, because all the information, so much of the information we get is through our eyes.
Yeah.
She goes, well, I can see why you'd say that, but you're wrong. It's hearing. It's much more devastating, because hearing, it's the human voice, it's sonics that connect us with the world in a much more deep way. And without that communication coming in, you can't communicate outwards again. So losing hearing is more important. It's hearing that connects us to the world in a much more fundamental and profound way than we think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just before we end, it is over to you guys. You throw the questions up here, we answer. Whoever decided on Comic Sans, like front 8, this is mad. This is from Anonymous, 11 minutes ago. Big up Anonymous in the place. Jenna, is there a project that you've worked on that you're particularly proud of?
So we worked on a campaign for Bloom and Wild called Care Wildly. It was their first TV campaign with a composer called Jessica Jones.
Yeah. And
it was a beautiful piano piece. It had a really melodic, sort of that hooky thing that you need to just really know, that it's that advert as soon as it's there. And the composer Jess is brilliant, up and coming talent. So that was a great one.
That's a favourite. This is from Anonymous as well. Right, with rules on sugar advertising coming at the end of next year to both online and TV, how do the panel, this is to all of you, see audio doing more with food brands? What does taste sound like? I mean, that's not, Well, I mean, that's not great.
I gave that Magnum example earlier on. I think that's a brilliant example. But also, when you see, like, kind of Coca-Cola can be very good at this, just the sound of a soda water going over ice, it's just incredible. Because it's not just about brand, it's also about creating desire. But also, I also get you to, it's not about what taste sounds like, it's how do you get people to, it tastes good. One of our brands that we use in radio a lot is Tyrrell's Crisps. And on their packaging, they have these vintage people. But also, with vintage people come vintage voices. Did you know he's an American? Did you love her very, very much? Those voices, and so we got to Terribly, Terribly Tasty, which is, has the brand name in twice, but it's very well branded, and it all hooks together into this vintage world. So think about how the brand, what's in the brand that can unlock audio, that can get you to the message you want put out there.
Yeah. Lola, are you going to be rooting her and making up, food jingles now? Is that what?
I mean, look, the world's your oyster, isn't it, nowadays? Love to do a food jingle.
That's one way around it. Right, says, it's over to you, Lola. Which is your favourite previous John Lewis ad, and did that influence how you approached the recording?
So I got quite shook when I was trying to kind of sing it, whatever, because I was thinking, I can't. My favourite one is the one with the Lily Allen somewhere. In terms of the ad, I do love that one with the bear and the rabbit. It's very cute. Obviously, I'm going to say my favourite is this one because
of course it is.
I'm on it. So
that's it.
Got to do myself promo right there.
Just watch when you're at a party and they're saying, "Do it, go on, sing it."
No, it's not the party vibe, I don't think.
Oh, that's the cue. Thank you all for coming out. That concludes today's session. Thank you, everyone that made today possible as well. And I really do hope that you enjoy the rest of tuning in 2021. Big round of applause for these guys.